Yo, what is up, my beautiful people? So today we're making a video that I've been wanting to make for a while now. This is pretty much a versus between the OneXplayer 1S and the OneXplayer 2 right here. So these handhelds have been some of my favorite. The OneXplayer 1S was actually the first major PC handheld that I ever got, so it has a special place in my heart. Now they have the OneXplayer 2 out, so let's see if 2 is better than 1. Quick answer is yes. Obviously, it's much better, but we're gonna dive into it to see what changes they actually made, to see if it was actually worth bringing out a number 2. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is the screen. I don't want to take too much time. We're gonna get right into it. Let's talk about the screen. As you can see here, we have two big, beautiful displays here, 8.4 inches, and I have my little device here, my calipers, just so we can test how big the screen actually is. So let's test the screen. It looks like our screen is 8.38. 8.38, and I guess you could call it 8.4 because it's 8.38. That's sort of like, I guess, the margin of error with a measuring tool. So let's test this. Let's test the OneXplayer 2 on the edge of the screen here. Yeah, 8.38. Pretty much the same exact size. I wouldn't be surprised if they're using the exact same screen in these two devices here. So as you can see, I'm gonna leave this here because this is what 8 inches looks like. So 8.4. So the displays on these are pretty similar. I wouldn't be surprised if they were not using the exact same display. As you can see here, the display does look very clear. This is a 4K video. The screens are 2560 by 1600, so pretty much a 2K screen, a little bit more than 1440p just because it's a 16 by 10 display. So for screens, I would have to say that the screens are pretty much the same. I can't give a point to either one for the screen, only because the screens are almost identical. As you can see here, the OneXplayer 1, the screen here, it does look very clear, and it looks pretty much identical to the OneXplayer 2. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just reused the screen. So the screen there, not much of an upgrade, but you didn't really need an upgrade because it's a 2K screen. You're not gonna really want much more than that. So as far as the display goes, they're both excellent. Some of the best displays on any handheld in the market. So much so that there's not many games that can run at this resolution. So there's that, but I will say that it is 2 times 800p, so scaling does work rather nicely with this resolution, 2560 by 1600. Now let's go on to the design. Let's see what the changes are in the design. You can see here we have a pretty similar design as far as size and footprint, but very different in the ways that matter. So let's check out the design here. We have a giant screen on the front. We have buttons here, joysticks, all that good stuff on the top. We have some ports. We have a USB-C that is Thunderbolt, USB-A that is 3.1, and USB-C, which is also Thunderbolt here. So as you can see, you have our 3 ports on the top with our SD card and headphone jack. Now on this one, it's a little bit different because we have our ports on the top. Maybe we'll focus. We have our ports on the top, a USB-C 4.0 and a USB-A 3.2, as well as our SD card and our headphone jack. But we also get another USB-C 4.0 port on the bottom, and as well as the speakers on the bottom here. So there are some differences in the design. The speakers are here on the front on the OneXplayer 1, and they are on the bottom on the OneXplayer 2. That has its pros and cons. So the speakers here are bigger and better, but if it's facing down on a surface, is going to be, of course, firing into that surface. But if they are free to sort of, you know, have open space, they do sound better. Okay, so as far as the design goes, design's pretty similar. I want to talk about the ergonomics. I'm going to talk about the ergonomics between these two devices, because that, I would have to say, is one of the biggest upgrades between these two devices is the ergonomics. And it all comes down to, let me put it up here. Yes, these devices are very thick, big chungus. It all comes down to the grip. As you can see here, we have this big grip here. So it has this big grip here. And if you look on here, it's pretty flat. To be honest, this grip is disrespectful in my opinion. This grip is disrespectful because it's like they put this here, but it's like, this is like what? A grip for ants? Like there's no grip there. It's just like, it's disrespectful. When you're playing this one, you pretty much have to have your hands flat here so you can actually hold it. So you hold it like this. You're playing like this, you know, all your buttons and everything. You're doing your thing, you're gaming away, but you're holding it like this because it's so flat. And for long extended sessions, it's not very comfortable. So much so that I actually have these 3D printed attachments where you can pretty much attach it on there and get better ergonomics. So I have a guy with a 3D printer and he printed these out for me. So you attach these there, and then that gives you a bigger grip. So then when you're playing, now you can, with this grip, ergonomics are perfect. You can play like this for hours. You have that grip, you have something to hold on the back. You know, you can have a good time. Now this pretty much takes this and it's built in. You have a nice big grip there. You have a nice big grip. Now you can play like this for hours. You know, the ergonomics on this, you can play this until the battery dies, because it's very much ergonomic in the way that this grip is much larger. You can see there, the grip is like 2 times the size of the body, and that is greatly appreciated. I added these this grip tape here. It's like a device grip. It's like a rubber grip with texture. That's just, you know, for myself, I like to add that extra grip there. But the grip itself, it is adequate, and it does feel so much better. Ergonomics between these devices is night and day. This, I give this, if I was giving it a grade, this is like an F. Okay, I give it a D minus. A D minus for ergonomics, because it's just so big, and the fact that I have to buy these attachments for it to feel, you know, playable, it just speaks volumes to the ergonomics of this device. This device, the ergonomics, I will give this I'll give it a 9 for ergonomics. I only take off 1 point because it is a very large device. So if you have small hands, you're not gonna probably want to hold this for too long because it is pretty heavy and pretty large. But my hands are pretty big here. As you can see, I can sort of like palm the whole device. I can go from stick to stick, so that should give you a sense of hand size. But my hands are fairly large, so it feels good to me. But I just take off a point just because the device is so large that somebody may not have a good time with it because of the size. But I give this a 9 in terms of ergonomics. So moving right along, let's talk about the controls. So we talked about ergonomics, let's talk about the controls. Now, right off the bat, starting with the OneXplayer 1, the controls are pretty good. The buttons do feel very nice. The buttons are, you know, a nice size, so you get a very good feel as the buttons, the actuation. You can go from each button and transition very smoothly without an issue. The joysticks are very small. I will have to say the joysticks are on the smaller side. They're like Nintendo Switch joysticks. Now I can measure these for you guys because the joysticks are a little bit different between these two. So let's get the measurement and see the difference. So I'll do this in millimeters. So the joystick here is 14.2 millimeters. We'll say 14.4. 14.4 millimeters is the joystick size on the OneXplayer 1. On the OneXplayer 2, the joystick is larger. It's not as big as Xbox, it's bigger than the Switch. it is 15.5. So it is fairly larger, a full millimeter larger than the OneXplayer 1, and you do feel that size. Now I have some joystick grip caps for each of them. This is for the OneXplayer 2, this is for OneXplayer 1, so that should give you a sense of the size difference. I will say that the joysticks do feel better on the OneXplayer 2. They are also, I believe they're hole based. They had some versions that had hole sticks, some that didn't. I believe the version I have is the whole sensor joystick. So the controls on here do feel good. So I give them both a, for the buttons, they both got an A for the buttons. For the joysticks, I give it a bonus point to the OneXplayer 2. It also has this metal ring here, so that cuts down on the wear and tear from rotating. That metal ring does cut down on the wear and tear from rotations. Another thing I have to give to the controllers is the unique feature of the OneXplayer 2, where you can remove the controllers. Now, I don't have the attachment that pretty much puts these together and lets you like have your own controller. I don't have the attachment with me. That's still coming. They said it will release in June. It's June now, so hopefully we'll get that soon. So we should be able to use this controller without having it on the device in tabletop mode. So they both do have a stand, so you can pretty much set it up and use that as a tabletop device similar to the Nintendo Switch. So that is good to see. You pretty much put it on the table like this, take the controller off, and then you would connect it with the attachment. I'll put it on the screen now. You connect it with the attachment, and then you have like a controller to play around, like if you had like an Xbox controller, or if you had a Nintendo Switch. You know how the Nintendo Switch comes with that device that connects them? It's pretty much the same thing as that. But these controllers don't work independently. They don't work like the Switch, like a Joy-Con. You can't take it off and play with it because this has no battery. This has just pretty much a control board inside of it, but it has no power in and of itself. So it has to be connected to something to work. And so for controls, I will say that overall I give the point to controls to the OneXplayer 2, because it does have that added functionality where you can take it off and add that attachment, and you have that sort of dual functionality. I will say I do like the triggers. I like the triggers on the OneXplayer 2 better, only because I like this this rebound. I like this rebound better than the rebound on the OneXplayer 2. This is like, it's smoother, it is more smooth, I guess. I just don't like that lack of oomph in that rebound. That's just me. That's just personal preference. I just like this more like clicky rebound, like it really rebounds back at you, and I just like that. It's more of like a fidget than anything. They both work perfectly fine. I just don't like the feel of this as much. When you're playing a game, it feels just about the same, but this does feel better to actuate and release. So I give the point to the triggers. I give the point to the OneXplayer 1 for the triggers. The D-pad is better on the OneXplayer 2. It's more definite in terms of, as you click it, it feels more like you actually clicked it and you actually have got a good actuation there. This one, it feels a little bit more mushy, and it feels just a bit too soft and too mushy in my opinion. That's just my honest opinion here. It does feel a little bit more mushy. Now, the last thing is performance. Now, performance is interesting because it's almost not even worth comparing. This is using the Intel i7-1195G7. It's using Intel Xe graphics. Not very powerful. It's powerful enough to do some things, but it is overshadowed multiple times by this device. This is the AMD 6800U. It is using a Ryzen 7, and it has a 7 it's the 680M iGPU, which is based on the RDNA 2 graphics cores, and it is multiple times more than this device. I'm gonna pull up a game here just so we can see, put our birds away for a minute, and I'm gonna pull up a game on both of these so we can get a sense of how the performance is. So hang on for that. Okay, so to talk about performance, I'm just going to showcase just a single game here so I don't waste too much time. The game I'm playing here is Spider-Man Miles Morales. Now you can see here on the OneXplayer 1S, we are at 800p low settings, and we get about 50 frames per second in this scene here. We're just in a stationary scene, you know, people are walking by, cars are driving, and we have our character Spider-Man here. Now playing that same scene on the OneXplayer 2, we are getting about 90 FPS here. So that's a pretty good indication of the performance here. But obviously in Spider-Man, you're not just sitting around. So let's swing around and see what we can get into. See how our frame rate is going to act. So right now we're getting around 30 FPS. I saw it drop down to 28. So it is around 30 FPS here. As you can see, we are getting around 30 to 35 FPS. So we got 39. So we're getting around 30 FPS here. 800p low settings. You could probably lock this off at 30 and have a good enjoyable time at 800p. So it is technically still playable because on the PS4, I believe, it was 30 FPS if I'm not mistaken. So this game was designed to run at 30 FPS. So you can't really complain if you get 30. But it is a pretty good experience on this big screen, I will say. Even at 800p, it doesn't look so bad. So let's just stop here and take a look at our Spider-Man. And you can see it doesn't look half bad. If I look around here, it doesn't look so bad. You may not see it in video, but in person, it's playable and it's passable. So now let's see how we can get along on the OneXplayer 2. So automatically, we're getting around 60 FPS. So automatically we are like double the performance. We're getting around 60, 65, going up to 68. It dropped down to 59, I just saw just now. But it is overall a much smoother experience here. And I will note that they are both at the max TDP, which is 28 watts. So there's no advantage in wattage. So that just lets you know that you can drop this down to around 15 watts and get the same performance that you get or better on the OneXplayer 1S. So let's just do that now because we're getting double the FPS here. We're getting 65, 69 FPS, even up to 70 FPS here with the same settings. So now let's put our TDP down to 15 watts and see what we can do. So now this is going to essentially double your battery life. So now let's see what we can get into. Okay, I'm at 15 watts. Went back to our starting point just so we can be a little bit more fair. And as you can see here, we are getting 60 FPS at our same starting position. And now let's just swing around and see what we can get into. So right off the bat, I'm seeing that I'm getting around 47, 45 to 50 FPS here. And that is a good sign because we was getting around 28 to 35 FPS on the OneXplayer 1. So I'm at 15 watts now, which means I can play this for essentially twice the amount of time as I could on the OneXplayer 1S and still master performance. And that is the real benefit with the boost in performance, not the fact that you can pretty much double your settings, but you can really double your battery life with the same settings. So, you know, you can lock this down to 30 and it's going to hit 30 100% of the time because it never drops down below 30. The OneXplayer 1S would drop below 30, which means you're not going to get that smooth, perfect 30 FPS. So here you go, at 15 watts, we are getting around 45 on average frames, going up to around even 50s, the low 50s. So this is more than playable at 15 watts, 800p, and it never drops below 30. So you could even lock this to 40 and you can have a great time playing this at a constant 40 FPS. As a matter of fact, I will do that, just my last showcase. I will lock it to 40 FPS just so I can show you guys how that works. You can come into the settings here and you can lock that frame rate to 40 FPS and it will cap that frame rate at 40 FPS. So now let's resume here. Our frame rate is now locked to 40 and we're gonna pretty much be at a constant 40 the entire time. So yeah, this is pretty much just a showcase between the OneXplayer 1S and the OneXplayer 2, and I think it is a very good upgrade. So it has, of course, better performance. The screen was already top of the line. The screen was already pretty much best in its class at a 2K resolution. The design, a lot of welcome features in the design. You know, RGB, that's an automatic 10% boost in frames. The design is improved. Also, the ergonomics are greatly improved. Ergonomics are improved. Controls, you know, we have this slide off design where you can use this in sort of tabletop mode. So that is good to see. The controls are better and the performance is much better. So overall, I say the OneXplayer 2 is better in pretty much every way than the OneXplayer 1S, and that's what you would expect, you know, when this device came out about 2 years after the OneXplayer 1S. So yeah, there you have it. It is much better, and you know, look forward to some more videos on this channel versus the ROG Ally. The AOK Zoe A1 Pro is coming out, and they even have a 7840 version of this, the OneXplayer 2 Pro, coming out. So maybe I'll get my hands on that and we'll do a comparison and we'll do a test there. But anyway, that's it for now. Catch you guys in the next one. Leave a comment down below of anything you want to see, and make sure to always keep your calipers handy. Anyway, I'm out. Peace.